What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you're having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, my name is Parker Nierenstein, and this is Vehicle Virgins. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what it's like to drive the Huracan Performante from a first-person point of view, what it actually feels like to get behind the wheel of this beast. Now, to make the experience even more immersive, I filmed this video in VR 180, virtual reality 180 degrees. So if you're viewing this on a mobile device, scan your phone from side to side and up and down. It actually views like you're viewing from your eyes on the screen, so you're changing angles. It's pretty cool. If you're viewing on a laptop, click the screen and drag to change angles. And the best way to view this, if you have a VR headset, put it on now, and you'll actually feel like you're behind the wheel of a Huracan. This car was very monumental in Lamborghini's history. Starting with the Huracan and then the Huracan Performante, it finally proved that Lamborghini is not just about showy, loud, very cool-looking cars that can't actually perform well on the track. After the Gallardo and the Murcielago, something radically changed. And what was that? So we'll go over some of the reasons why the Huracan Performante is so good to drive and what made it so quick. In fact, it was so fast that it set the Nürburgring production car lap record at 6 minutes and 52 seconds. The only cars that have beaten it since it set the record are Lamborghini's own Aventador SVJ, so it's in the family, it's a more expensive car, so it makes sense. If they didn't make the SVJ faster than this car, it'd be a little bit embarrassing for them. And the Porsche GT2 RS. This car is actually faster around the Nürburgring than a 918 Spider. How wild is that? So it's powered by a 5.2-liter naturally aspirated V10 that makes 630 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. Well, competitors are going forced induction. We've got the McLaren 600LT and 720S that are twin-turbo V8s. We've got the 488, the 488 Pista, that is a twin-turbocharged V8 as well. Lamborghini is sticking to naturally aspirated, which means the power delivery is as smooth and linear as it gets, and it sounds unbelievably good. Oh, there's something about a naturally aspirated V10 that is unbelievable. And the car crackles and pops from the factory. So that 5.2-liter V10 is coupled to a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. Unlike the single-clutch E-gear that was in the Gallardo and the single-clutch ISR gearbox that's in the Aventador, it shifts so quickly and seamlessly. So if you're in Strada mode, there's 3 different driving modes in the Huracan, as well as the Huracan Performante. Strada mode. We're in Strada mode, and shifts are easy and seamless. You can put the car into automatic mode, and the car will shift for you. I don't know why you would ever do that. This is a Lamborghini. So Strada mode and automatic is good for the rain or if somebody's driving the car for the first time, but other than that, it's pretty boring. Switch the car into sport mode, the display changes a little bit, we've got some yellow graphics, the steering tightens up, the throttle response is better, the shifts are quicker. In automatic mode, if you slam on the brakes, it'll downshift for you. Well, let's go ahead and put it into the fun mode, which is Corsa, which means track in Italian. Brings up a totally bespoke tachometer that's horizontal, looks almost like a rainbow, but that's a really lame way of describing it. So cool. We've got these massive paddles mounted behind the steering wheel that are so easy to grab no matter where you are in the turn, and they feel so good to depress. And the transmission shifts unbelievably fast. Now in Corsa mode, it gives you this little bit of interruption between shifts that simulates this violence that kind of feels like a single clutch gearbox, but it's not. And I very much enjoy that, because if the car is too smooth, then it loses a little bit of the excitement. Speaking of smooth, the car suspension is very stiff, especially there's 2 seat options, the comfort seats and the racing buckets. If you get a Performante, do not get the bucket seats. They look very cool, made of carbon fiber, save weight, but they are so uncomfortable. It's unbelievable. These comfort seats, much better. In fact, these seats, you can't actually get ones exactly like this. They've got this bespoke stitching in it. That's because this was the launch car, the first ever Huracan Performante. It actually has a badge over here when it was unveiled at Pebble Beach. But the comfort seats are definitely the way to go. Now, steering feel in the Performante is fantastic. It doesn't feel quite as nimble as the McLaren and the Ferrari counterparts, but what this car has is an unbelievable amount of grip. I mean, unbelievable. Because it's all-wheel drive and it's got unbelievable aerodynamics and downforce, the level of performance you can get just pushing it through corners and the level of confidence you get behind the wheel, because you've got that all-wheel drive, is actually just incredible and makes you feel like you can push this car like a champion, which you can. And a lot of that is due to the car's tricksy aerodynamic system called ALA, which we'll describe in more detail outside the car because it's cool to see how it actually functions. But it's an active aerodynamic system that allows the car to have high downforce around corners and then low drag when it's doing top speed runs. Really, really cool. The brakes are phenomenal in the car, slows it down very well. The acceleration from a standstill, because it's all-wheel drive, is nearly unmatched. 0 to 60 happens in 2.7 seconds, which is hypercar quick. After that, the car doesn't pull as hard as its competitors because it's naturally aspirated. It doesn't have a ton of power. I mean, 630 is definitely no slouch, but it's not a rocket ship in a straight line. That being said, this is one of the most fun cars to drive of all time. Obviously, I owned a Huracan for a long time and I was debating whether it was worth upgrading to a Performante. This car is so much better in every way than a standard Huracan, but I felt like I'd already owned the Huracan. Maybe upgrading to the car that's better, but it's still kind of the same car didn't necessarily make any sense, especially for a content perspective. But this car, I've been behind the wheel of it for the last hour and I have fallen in love with it again. I've obviously driven Performantes before, but it is such a weapon. The sound it makes from that V10, the throttle response, the linear power delivery, and the unbelievable amount of grip, and how nimble the car feels. Obviously, this is much lighter than a standard Huracan because it's all about weight savings and track performance. Now, the interior of the car is also a lot more beautiful than the Huracans due to the plethora of forged carbon fiber that they've put all throughout the interior. I love that. It's such a nice touch. And then in the engine bay, we've got that forged carbon as well. In fact, when it originally came out, with forged carbon fiber in the engine bay of the Huracan, I really want to put that in the interior. And then they did the Performante, and well, it looks absolutely incredible. So let's hop outside the car now, describe the aerodynamic system, wrap this video up. Lamborghini absolutely killed it with the looks on the Huracan Performante. In my opinion, it is the best looking production V10 car that they've ever made. It's aggressive, it's angry, yet it looks beautiful at the same time, especially in this Verde Hydra and bronze wheel combination. Looks spectacular. But what's crazy is what's hiding underneath that design is some of the trickiest aerodynamic mechanics you have ever seen in your entire life. Lamborghini calls it Aerodynamica Lamborghini Attiva, or ALA for short. Now in the front, it allows both high downforce when you're cornering, and it also allows for lower downforce when you're trying to do top speed runs. So there's actually some vents right here that remain closed when you want to have higher downforce, and then automatically the vents drop downwards. You can actually hear it there to allow airflow to pass underneath the car for lower drag. But the really cool stuff has to do with the rear wing. On the surface, the rear wing of the Huracan Performante doesn't look like much. It's stationary, it doesn't have any active movement to it, but Lamborghini has hid some really cool active aerodynamics inside of the wing itself. So check this out. When you want maximum downforce, there are flaps inside these air vents right here that remain closed. Then airflow passes over the car, under and over the wing, creating maximum downforce like a normal wing would operate. But when you want less drag, you want to do a top speed run or you're coming out into a straightaway on the track, The valves actually open up inside these air vents. Air travels through the wing itself and then out these series of slots underneath the wing. Now, when the airflow comes out through these slots, it disrupts the airflow from the air over the wing, basically stalls the rear spoiler, and allows the car to accelerate and reach a higher top speed. The craziest part of it all is they can work independentally from one another. So this one can close, allowing for maximum downforce over the inside wheel if you're going around a left-hand corner. They call that aero vectoring. It's one of the reasons why this car was able to set the Nürburgring lap record. One of my favorite cars of all time to drive. It's beautiful, it sounds great, the aerodynamics are crazy, and I hope you enjoyed the video behind the wheel of this car. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.
Like gravity.